Bobby, go ahead and start by introducing yourself.
Okay, I'm Bobby Renn, Clerk of the Circuit Court of Greensville County, and I live in downtown Emporia, Virginia.
And how long have you lived in downtown?
I'm a lifetime resident, except for a short period of moving a couple other places.
So, can you paint a picture for us of what life was like when you were growing up as a boy, young boy, in Emporia?
Really different than now.
Hold on 1 second. A little bit higher. Sorry. Yep, you're good. That's the safe spot right there. Oh, a little bit more. Right there. All right.
Really different than now. When we went to school, we all walked if you lived in town. If you lived outside of the city limits, you could ride the school bus, but otherwise everybody walked to school. And many days you'd go home for lunch, which you don't do now. It's an entirely different situation.
Was it Southern hospitality? Did everyone keep the doors unlocked at that time, or?
Oh yes, my father never took the keys out of his car. We just left it in all the time when he parked out back. He was clerk of court before me. I didn't follow him, but he was clerk of court for a long period of time. And we never locked the doors at home and never took the keys out of the car.
So what's a big change in that you've seen happen in Emporia over the years?
Well, we've seen a lot of industry come and go here, and we have a great diversity of industry, which is really good for our community, and we think that's very important.
What are some events that people talk about that's.
Well, we had the flood of 1940, which was the biggest flood we ever had. It blocked Main Street for a week or so, and if you were to look at the post office, it went to the top step on the post office. It washed gas tanks away from the service station, and the only way people could get from one side of town to the other crossing the Emporia River was either by somebody paddling them in a boat or walking across the railroad track, which was the only thing that didn't go under then. And that same year we had the biggest snow we ever had here. 1940 we call it a blizzard. It was about 23 or 24 inches at one time. It was quite a snow.
Did anyone pass away from this flood? Anyone die?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. Lost a lot of crops, though. It really was devastating to the crops along the low ground area of our county.
What's your family history?
Well, my father came from Sussex County. He was deputy clerk over there and moved to Emporia, and my mother was a native here, and her family's been here for generations and generations.
You don't know how they ended up in Emporia?
Well, my father came to work here in the clerk's office, and I have no idea on my grandparents. They'd been here a long, long time.
The guys in the pawn shop said that you would know something about the lynching they were talking about. So what was that all about? Tell us what happened.
A lynching occurred in 1903 here. There was Cotton and O'Grady. It was a black man and a white man, and they had killed a lot of people and robbed a lot of people, and they finally were captured. I think they'd been captured earlier and had escaped, but they were captured here, and the governor sent the militia down, and as I understand it, when they thought order had been restored, that the militia left, and as the train left town, the people as a group came down and took them out of the jail and lynched them on a tree that's now gone that was in the courthouse square. Lynched them one and then the other.
So since there was a whole town involved, they didn't arrest people, did they? Or what
nobody ever knew anything about it, they claimed. Everybody you asked, nobody knew anything about it. But there was a picture showing a crowd that had gathered, and it was quite a crowd, so it must have been everybody in town.
Okay, so we'll start back to the town lynching. So just tell us what happened there again.
In 1903, there was a lynching here. That there were two very bad criminals, one black and one white. They had been captured once.
Bobby, 1 second. You gotta keep it a little bit lower. That's good, right there. Okay, so start from again, 1903.
In 1903, there was a lynching here. People named Cotton and O'Grady. They were one black man and one white man, and they had gone around and robbed and killed a lot of people. And I believe they had been captured once and escaped, but they were captured here, and the people were really up in arms about it. Prior to being captured, one of them had come into town, and my aunt had been stopped by the man and forced to make a bucket of coffee for him to take back in the woods to the other man. But they were captured shortly thereafter. The governor sent the militia down here to prevent any violence, but as soon as it appeared that order was restored, the militia left, and as the train left town, the people in the community, and I think the entire community, went down and they took them out and lynched them one at a time. Nobody ever seemed to know anything about it, though. You could ask questions and nobody ever said anything. Nobody knew anything that I ever heard of.
So, not lynchings, but was it common back in the day in small town where people just took matters in their own hand instead of waiting on the government or the police?
Oh, well, that was before my time, so I don't really know.
Yeah.
I think that was the only instance similar to that I've ever heard of here.
Yeah. In World War II, you said, what was life like during World War II here?
Well, World War II, I was quite young. We, as Boy Scouts, we'd go out in the evening and pick cotton till dark because they didn't have enough people to pick cotton. We held tin can drives. We'd go around and pick up tin cans and metal of every kind, scrap drives. And I remember that we used to go from office to office and get canceled stamps for sending to veterans that were people who were in the military hospitals that had come back wounded. And we used to walk home from school and pick up cigarette packs that had aluminum wrapped around the paper. Then people would just throw them out. We'd pick them up and save that and make it into a big thing to turn in. We saved fat at home in a jar and brought it to the store every so often to turn in to be used. It was a very interesting time. Everything was rationed. Gas was rationed. Food was rationed. We had blackout drills. We had a lot of things like that, and I think everybody participated. I participated as a youngster in the Army Watch Service. We had a group that would watch in daylight for planes, and it would report them by telephone to Richmond every time you saw a plane of any kind. And that was done, I think, across the nation, or at least across the East Coast. We had a very active operation here in that.
Then jumping ahead, I guess, to the 60s, I mean, did Emporia go through any changes like the rest of the country did in the 60s, you remember, with the Vietnam War and the I guess, social revolution at the time and everything else happening, or does the small town pretty much stay constant?
I think we stay pretty constant here. It's a good community, a lot of really good people here. It's a nice community to live in. You feel safe, you feel comfortable, and they're good people here.
Do you think the community is prospering?
I think so. We've had a lot of industry to close here. We've had textile industry to close. We've had Purdue operation to close. We've had some Georgia Pacific plants to close, but we have a big, nice Georgia Pacific plant here. We have a rope factory, as I call it, that makes ribbon. We have a plastic firm that compresses stuff and they make things like cash drawers. We have a glass company here that makes bulletproof glass. It's an Israeli company, and they're a very active company.
What are they doing in Emporia?
They just picked it. We had an empty building at the time, and they picked it, and they employ a lot of people there. But it's a very interesting operation.
Where is it at? We'll go
it's north of town, about 4 miles.
Okay.
Right on this street here, right on the right out there. We did have Wheeling Corrugated there, but they went bankrupt. They were making the floors for the new World Trade Center, the decking for the new World Trade Center there. We have a pipe making company out there, and perhaps our biggest company here would be Boar's Head out at Jarrett, Virginia. That is a huge, nice company. And then another industry for us is the prison here. We have a prison that holds about 3,000 people. It employs a lot of people there. We have a really nice hospital. The prison is Greensville Correctional Facility.
Is it maximum security or is it?
Maximum security, and that's where the death sentences are put out, they're done. We also have a fabulous hospital here, and we have a really good YMCA here, which is great for a small community. It's unusually good.